Hi everyone, welcome to episode 57 of A Fern Between Us.
We are two of the four owners of Vivac Winery. I'm Jesse.
I'm Michelle, and today we are focusing on the wine club wines that we sent out this past month. So if you are a wine club member and still have yours, hopefully you're tasting along with us. If not, perhaps you were able to pick up a bottle of the Abbott Merlot and the Syrah to taste along, or you can bookmark this and come back to it the next time you have one of these bottles. So, all right, man, what a day, huh?
It's all busy.
Whew. Chris and Lily are still on vacation, a much needed vacation, but I don't think we have been so busy.
I've been busier than this.
It's been wild. It's all like these weird come out of nowhere projects that you think you have your day planned, and then about 30,000 things interrupt it and send us on this like, oh wait, now this is this thing that we have to think about that we hadn't even thought of, and it's kind of interesting. It's a interesting time this last week and this week, don't you think?
Yeah. No, I started physical therapy for my back today.
Yes.
Which is awesome. I'm all excited.
What did the therapist say?
We're going to try to unbulge the bulge in my disc. Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
How do you unbulge a bulge?
Well, he found out which way it bulges, and then we're going to try to like push it back into normal.
Whoa.
Over time or whatever, over exercise. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it.
Well,
so I'm excited. Hopefully it works out. I think it'll be good.
That's
I'm sure it'll be good. I mean,
it's got to be better than now.
Yeah, exactly. Getting old's awesome, guys. You know, a little of this, little of that. What are you gonna do?
Right.
It'll be a lot of this and a lot of that someday, or sometimes. I guess for you, it's more of a lot already.
Right.
But I don't think yours are age related. Mine are, but it seems like yours are less. They're just.
Well, except that I feel like rheumatoid arthritis is the epitome of an old person thing. You know,
right,
I mean, that's what a lot of people think of, right? There's plenty of us that have it when we're younger, but we think of, the crippled old lady with arthritis.
That's a good point.
But I did go for my first shot for my new medication, and I'm really hopeful that this works a lot better than what I have been doing, which I was miserable on. So hopefully that works out. It was pretty weird. They had to teach me how to do these new injections, which are quite strange, oddly.
Yeah.
Weird thing is I'm shooting myself in the leg again. Lots of fun, my poor legs. But when this injects, I could feel a whoosh of fluid into my leg, and you could see it. You could see this like little bulge. Yeah. So that was a little weird. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not super psyched about that. Denali has been taking over doing my injections because I couldn't do them to myself anymore. And she might have to learn how to do these ones too, because that's really strange. Another thing that I learned today, which I didn't realize, that before all of these amazing drugs and research, that the deterioration of rheumatoid arthritis in your joints would require, when it got really bad, for you to have that joint replaced. Mm-hmm. So wrists, elbows, knees, ankles.
Dude,
that's a really hardcore. I've heard of hip replacement and knee replacement, but I've never thought of your wrist or your elbow.
No,
and
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, the nurse tossed it out like it was, I was like, oh
no,
that's horrible. So that's kind of interesting. And then we also got to spend the afternoon with some social media influencers, Gavin and Karen from Couple in the Kitchen. So if you want to follow them, at Couple in the Kitchen. They were great. They're doing a tour of New Mexico, and we happened to be one of the spots that they came to visit. So we got to have a fun afternoon chatting with them, which is always totally different and entertaining when you got some media kind of people come through.
We often get hosted in the fashion that we were hosting today or whatever, and that's always a lot of fun. And so it's kind of fun to be on the other side of that, which we always...
Sorry. That's
Denali's,
okay. You know, with the mics, nobody can really hear what happens over there, so we just draw attention whenever we say.
Nice. That's funny.
Denali's choking to death.
Anyway.
Sorry.
Anyway, so it was fun. It was a fun meeting with them. They're a great couple, and gave us some good ideas, and we'll probably actually use some of their contacts here in the future. They told us some good tips and some good people to call. And
they're going to be posting photos and their reviews and everything and share that. So I'm looking forward to seeing their posts and all of that too. So that'll be fun. Mm-hmm. All right. So on to the wines that we are tasting.
Okay.
Abbott Merlot. So Abbott Merlot being from our Abbott vineyard, which is named such because...
the Abbott family, that's their last name.
Exactly. And how do you know them other than the vineyard?
All right. So old school family friends. One of the Abbotts was a little, 10 years younger than my parents, and they kind of and lived across the arroyo from them when they first moved to the home that Chris and I grew up in. So they ended up going on vacation with the guy and ended up meeting his family and knowing his whole family and this and that a bunch of times. He was kind of like a fun time little brother to them or whatever. Since then, I've worked on construction sites with him. Chris and Lily have rented a house from his sister. We just go way back. When I was a tiny little baby growing up, a lot
babysitters, right?
They were some of my babysitters, some of the Abbotts.
We've hired now some of the Abbotts.
The granddaughter, the grandniece of the owners of the Abbott Vineyard was our employee until just recently. Mm-hmm. Seiji, she's I've known her since she was a baby. So we go way back. But anyway, so part of that family now 4 miles down the road from our tasting room. We now buy all the grapes that they produce, and they produce some great ones: Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Syrah, Chardonnay. But it's in a northern style, so it's nice and high
elevation.
And higher acid, and
they're really special wines.
They're really special wines and really special. It's a great vineyard, and I feel like we're really lucky to have access to all those.
I concur. And we took over management of that property about 5 years ago. So for some of you that have been with us for a really long time and tracking all of that, you probably know about it. But anybody that's a little bit newer to being introduced to our wines, they're a little bit newer, and you see the Abbott name, and that's the delineation of that vineyard on our label. So
exactly.
Tell us about the difference in the winemaking style between when you're making a Merlot versus you're making a Syrah.
Not tons and tons of difference, except for that, in the Syrah, I'm always choosing, we choose yeasts in order to bring out spiciness and certain aspects of a Syrah where...
And what would those aspects be? What are your choices?
All right, so in southern New Mexico, we're going to be more of a jammy style. So, if we're getting Syrah from the south, it's going to be more jammy, spicier in some ways. And up north, it's going to be kind of a leaner, not currant, but
sort of a ripe raspberry. I always think of raspberry jam.
Yeah, exactly. A ripe raspberry and more peppery, black pepper, rather than spicy, green chili spicy. So it's down south, it's going to be more of a green chili spicy, and up north, it's going to be more of a black pepper. And
we are tasting the Syrah that's sourced from the southern part of the state. We bring all those grapes up.
So that's going to be more your hot weather style Syrah, and up northern grapes, if it went, in the vintages that we have enough to do a northern vintage Syrah, that's going to be more of a cool climate, like North Rhone style Syrah versus like a hotter, like a an Australian Syrah or something like that. So those are the differentiations between different Syrah styles. Merlot, from up north, I'm looking for just deep, rich, not overly fruity, but just
more that earthy, the depth.
Exactly.
So it's not all high notes. So that's something that I think is really interesting, and maybe that a lot of people are not necessarily privy to, is when you're looking at a finished wine, the aspects that you're looking for as you taste it, you want all these different levels. And so if everything's coming in at, bright fruit, high acid, you're hitting all these pings at the high notes, there's nothing that continues the flavor over your palate and gives you a nice finish. And that can leave this hole. And a lot of people don't know how to identify that hole, but they know that wine just kind of disappears in my mouth.
Right.
And that's not fun.
That's not as fun.
Yeah. You're looking for that party to last.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So I want the party to go all night.
So is either one more fun or easier to make?
No, they're just different, We have a similar winemaking style and lots of things. It's just the planning and the pre-planning and stuff like that. That's where those differences come out. And then later, after the fact, in the blending,
Oh, so, yes. Okay.
So when we're blending later on, we have to decide between what taste.
At what stage are you blending?
We don't blend until maybe 10 months later. We're getting ready to blend now. As soon as Chris comes back, we're going to make all the blends for the 2020 vintage. So then we make all the blends, and we know how big those lots are, and then we can place our grape order for this coming season, refine it down, and we can kind of we know how much we have and how much maybe we need, but you never know exactly. Because
it's a strange guessing game.
Y'all's taste change like crazy. Maybe this year's Montepulciano is insane and is flying off the shelves, and we think, okay, we sell 9 cases a month of Montepulciano, and then next year we sell 4 cases a month of Montepulciano, and so now I've got 4 years worth of reserve instead of 2, and it's like, oh no, don't order Montepulciano, but then maybe next vintage, it's a nightmare. But anyway, you should be consistent, people. No. Make my job so much easier.
Just drink all of the wines equally.
Exactly. No, but and then all right, so then in the blending process, we have to decide between what you guys are gonna like, what I personally like, and then what's more true to the true to origin.
Yes.
Origin and varietal, right?
Yeah, you need it to be varietally correct.
So
if you taste a Syrah and you're like, this tastes like something completely different, you for one shouldn't send that into a competition, even if people really enjoy it.
Right.
It's not going to win awards because it's not varietally correct. It's not showing those little cursors that wine judge or a master sommelier would be looking for as those telltale signs of that's a Syrah from such and such kind of area. And one of my favorite stories is a master sommelier that tasted our Syrah blind in a tasting and was just dumbfounded that it was not a Northern Rhone Syrah.
Right.
And that was super fun. And
that was amazing.
He was like, there's no way. And so then he had to taste it again, looking at the bottle, and he's like, there's just no way. There's no way. How did you do that? And that was pretty spectacular, I thought.
Yeah. And so that was obviously the one that came from up north up here. Almost everybody in the New World that plants Syrahs plants them in warmer regions. It's one of those wines that grapes that grows well and shows well from a warm region. So any wine growing region that has a hotter area, they plant their Syrah there. And this is Australia, not New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, California, Oregon. Everybody plants their Syrah in their hottest spot. And so the world has, especially the new winemaking world, has all these examples of warm weather Syrahs, but only Northern Rhone that's the only place it's planted in a fairly cool area. So
and you get these dank, kind of earthy, weird, really amazing.
And it is amazing, and it's such a great varietal, but so few examples of that. And they're like, well, this is the pinnacle of what Syrah should be, but nobody's trying to emulate that at all. And we're not trying to emulate that because we're obviously not the Northern Rhone, but at the same time, Northern New Mexico is way cooler than most places have a Syrah. And these guys happen to plant a Syrah, and we happen to have access to it, so we're going that way when we get a full vintage of it. So it's fun.
All right, I was drinking the Merlot, which is one of my personal favorite wines.
Yeah, I'm on Merlot too, and talking about Syrah. Okay,
I know, right? And the Merlot is one of my personal favorites because it is unique Merlot. It's got so much character and depth, and it usually surprises people so big time because they're used to Merlot being more the stereotypical, buy it from the grocery store. It's a little flabby. It's not that interesting. The people that we were meeting with, the social media influencers, were pretty floored at tasting this, which I love that. I love when I can surprise people.
Yeah.
All right, so tasting the Syrah.
Okay.
Tell me what you think.
So.
Tell me. Teach me, baby.
Okay, so while the fruits have a super bassy kind of note, they're not jammy. I wouldn't call it jammy. Mm-mm. Not compared to like what you're used to, right?
No.
I get blueberry like crazy all of a sudden after the Merlot. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I've necessarily picked that out before, but it's kind of like this juicy blueberry. And I wish I had looked up the notes. I don't remember if there is any Northern Syrah in this or not, but it doesn't taste to me as a strict Southern Syrah, so Southern New Mexico Syrah. So I don't.
Well, and didn't this vintage, weren't we short, and there was like some combination things
happening?
What it is? Okay. Because the Syrah, the Chardonnay also had a combination thing, and I think the Syrah ended up with that too. Yeah. And I agree. There is.
I'm getting cool climate, a decent amount of cool climateness in here. This is actually way better than a strict Southern Syrah to me. But then I'm partial.
It's for me, it's more along the lines of a blueberry pie. I get more baked blueberry.
Yeah.
But those really intense blueberry flavors.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
There's also I actually get white pepper.
Ooh.
And there's an herbal quality that
there definitely is.
That I'm getting. Is
it eucalyptus or something?
Well, there is a little bit of a minty thing, which often eucalyptus is a little minty kind of thing, not as strong as mint. It's a little more earth-based, herbal kind of, more cooking herb kind of idea. Mm-hmm. If you're wondering what eucalyptus smells like, it's really pretty.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to share about the just origin of these grapes or talk about any of that?
All right. So we used to think Syrah, because so in Iran, there's a wine growing region and a capital of one of the regions over there named Shiraz. And originally, 20 years ago when we started, we thought, the whole southern hemisphere and some other New World regions, like some places in California and New Mexico, wherever, call it Shiraz. It's the same grape, Syrah, Shiraz. And the story used to go that the grape came from this Middle Eastern town in Iran named Shiraz and was planted in the Rhone. We now know through DNA sequencing, thank God for DNA, that is so cool. Not actually a true story. That it comes from the parents. The two parents are the mom is a white and I can't remember. Mongoose, I think it's I can't remember. There's a red and a white that were the parents, but they don't know how far back it goes. could be a couple thousand years possibly.
Like Cabernet has a white and a red as parents.
Exactly. But it all comes from right there in southeastern France. And it's been there the whole time. Syrah is way more popular than any of those two ever got to. They almost went extinct. Now they're like have been preserved and found and preserved and blah, blah, blah. But they're super small compared to the rest of Syrah. So anyway, we don't know where the name Shiraz comes from. It's just one of the names that ended up coming out of it. But so you can use either. They're both interchangeable. No difference. Northern Rhones are almost always Syrah. Southern Rhones have Syrah in the blend almost always, but more Grenache based wines. So that's what we know is for Syrah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
One of the top 10 planted wines, mostly like top 6, 7 worldwide, basically.
Oh, people love Syrah.
Yeah,
and I think they're coming back to really appreciate Merlot more. And of course, it's a story that we've told on many, many episodes.
Poor Merlot got hammered.
Yeah, we talk about the Sideways movie a lot because it was so influential in the wine business. People think that it was just a fun movie, but it really did have an impact. Everybody wanted to buy Pinot Noir. Nobody wanted to buy Merlot. It really was an incredible phenomenon to see. And of course, as you've heard us say a million times, the end wine that he was coveting and saving was in fact a Merlot. So a lot of people missed that joke.
The thing is, the average wine drinker, or the occasional wine drinker, or the average wine drinker, naturally likes Merlot way better than they're gonna ever like a Pinot. Pinot is so weird and obscure and has some funky. It tastes like tar sometimes. It's like,
except for some of these newer
tobacco.
Pinots where they've really like morphed it to taste unlike what a Pinot is supposed to taste like.
Tastes like candy, and then you're like, well, I like Pinot, but it's not really like
Pinot. Yeah. Pinot.
So, right? So it was pretty wild that one movie got everyone to like switch over to Pinot Noir and drop Merlot altogether. I think
it's pretty well.
Naturally, the natural order of things is people are going to like Merlot better than a Pinot.
I totally agree. I didn't realize
until you geek out,
how far we were into the timing here.
Sorry.
I'm just enjoying talking to you about winemaking and these wines. But as a matter of fact, we do have a couple of questions that I do actually want to get in here.
Okay, cool. What do you got?
So, do you use oak during fermentation? Why or why not?
Yes. Almost always in red wine, every time in red wines, and occasionally even in whites, not for the oak flavor, because that doesn't translate as an oaky flavor or a smoky flavor or any of that. Mostly we use a blend of different oaks, uncharred, medium charred, and an oven toasted.
But they're all French oak.
They're all French oak.
They're not a different oak.
They're just treated different. They're all still 3 years of air aging before they get toasted or not toasted or whatever.
You get toasted all the time. And
the reason we do it is for mouthfeel and complexity and stability. The wine gains a lot of tannins, different kinds of tannins that's not available in the grape skins or seeds, and it just helps to round out the mouthfeel. Basically, is why we do it, and we spend a lot of money doing that, actually.
Which I think it's part of why these various vintages taste so much more mature early on. Normally, you would have to wait several years before getting that kind of mouthfeel and complexity and smooth transition between the initial tastes, the middle palate, and your finish. And I've really appreciated that nuance that is super subtle, but you, even without knowing a lot about wine, you will taste the difference without knowing what you're tasting. You're going to say, oh,
it's been about 10 years now that we've been doing that. And I really feel like the second the wines that we did that on first, like, were released, everyone's like, man, you guys are just really doing so good with your winemaking. Like everybody immediately started complimenting our winemaking, like just overnight, and it was all due to that. And it's not because they're oakier, but it was because there's oak in the fermentation,
which is confusing to people. That wait, you add oak during fermentation, it must be really oaky, and it's not whatsoever.
Exactly.
All right. So why would a winery use a whiskey barrel, and what does that do to the wine?
We don't do that. We don't use whiskey barrels. There are fortified wines like port or sherry or something like that may use whiskey barrels, and whiskey makers may use port or sherry barrels for their aging. There's a lot of you just gain a little bit of something from those, but I feel like in a still wine, most of the time it's to me it moves it away from being a serious Cabernet or whatever it is, right?
It starts to get into doctoring a wine
a little bit. It to me it adds a certain flavor, and I'm not opposed to that, but it's maybe not for us or whatever. But for people out there, it can be a really interesting thing. And then the different whiskeys are different, right? So you got American whiskey or Scotch or Irish whiskey or Canadian whiskey. Any of those have a different flavor profile because of the if you've ever tasted them, you would know. But they're going to lend themselves something. And the thing with whiskey barrels is they're a one-time use. Almost always they're a one-time use. So they will use it, age it for whatever period of time they've deemed, pre-deemed. Most of them are not going to be, 10 years in a cask or something. So most of them are going to be a year or two, and then they're going to get rid of them. So there's still some oak flavors in there, and then you also gain some of the whiskey flavors, and then obviously a tiny amount, but you will raise the alcohol content in the wine.
Well, and I think that's an interesting component for if you like really big wines, like you want some kind of monster for whatever purpose. Maybe you just enjoy that, or maybe you're, trying to pair with a heavily smoked peppered meat or something along those lines where you're looking for something gigantic. That is, if it says that it was aged in whiskey barrels, you're looking at, they had a huge fruit content too to balance that. Yeah. And
maybe a little residual sugar, ideally.
Yeah, and you're going to have high alcohol content, and
that's the reason why you would maybe I would consider it in a port or a sherry situation, because you don't care that the alcohol content goes up a little bit. You don't care, you're already dealing with such monster flavors that a little hint of whiskey is maybe a good thing. Yeah. In that situation, and I totally agree. I mean, port and sherry are fortified wines already. They're already adding, brandy, which is the grape version of whiskey, right? That's what you add in order to fortify it. So a little bit of whiskey, that'd be fine in that situation, and maybe advantageous.
Right? Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Yeah. But we don't do that.
We don't.
Just as a final note. Yeah. But all right, how do you make a party such as Mother's Day that's coming up this Sunday? No. Have you guys planned? Oh, no. Do you know what you're doing? Have you actually thought about it?
The answer is yes.
Yes.
As the wheels start cranking.
So what's a way to have a fun, festive party without many people? So we're all in this weird teeter-totter of, a lot of us are vaccinated. We're excited to have a little bit of a gathering, but we're not having a big party yet. But also, how do you make that feel festive when it's still a small group? And I think that's really interesting, because we're used to, it's the same old, you know? Yeah. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in with what I told one of my best friends about an idea for Mother's Day.
I've already got this all handled, but that's why I want to hear yours first. your idea of what would be great.
So
first.
I don't know about everybody that's into wine, but I think it's fairly consistent that we love bubbles. Bubbles say party, bubbles say celebration. So a mimosa bar is what I have suggested, and that's also what I am going to be having here as our celebration. And so how do you set that up? So I like to do something a little bit different. Of course, everybody knows that some bubbly with orange juice is your classic mimosa, but now everybody's getting a lot more excited with how to change that up. And so I am willing to share my recipes.
Rightfully so. I think it's time to change that up. I mean, or add to it. I mean,
right?
For years I've been lessening. I used to think it was a 50-50. And then now I've been like less and less and less. And now it's just like a splash of orange juice. Or there's just orange juice on the counter and I drink the bubbly and pretend it's a mimosa.
I do lean towards that myself. But so first of all, you don't need to spend a lot on the bubbly if you're going to be mixing it. So that's first and foremost. My personal favorite is Prosecco's. It's the best flavor profile where you're still getting an excellent bubbly. Prosecco is from Italy. But with a hint of sweetness. Cheaper.
Yeah, hint of sweetness usually.
They still make, it's brut. So it's not, so that's a careful delineation. Those of you that like sweet bubbly, definitely, go for the sweeter. This isn't going to be as sweet as you would like, but it is a fuller fruit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my suggestion is that when you get a rosé Prosecco, that you then add a splash of blood orange, sparkling, what are those, they're like Pellegrino.
Oh, Spinarello or whatever
Yeah, that company, they have really beautiful cans.
Spagnolo, Spinal, something.
Denali, will you get one out of the fridge?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You know the sparkling blood orange drinks.
The hard seltzer?
No. If she can't find it, that's okay. We're going to move on. But if she finds it, we're going to show that to you. But so before you even put anything in the glass, it's important to rim the glass. I think that also says a party, right? You're making a little bit more effort in the little details. Yeah. And so lemon, a little lemon around the rim of the glass makes it sticky. Then you can dip the glass into, for this particular one, I am suggesting a New Mexico red chili if you have it. If not, if you're familiar with Tajín, that would kind of work. And then you're going to fill the glass with mostly the rosé Prosecco, a splash of the blood orange, bubbly water, juice, whatever you want to call it. And then...
they're the ones with the tin top, right?
Yes.
The tin top can...
Yeah, okay. Is this it?
Yes. Yeah.
Spanish.
So this is another...
San Pellegrino. Oh, it's San Pellegrino.
It is San Pellegrino. All right.
So that's what you're looking at. I'll get it closer, right? Something like that. San Pellegrino. And basically, these are amazing.
And they come in different flavors. So anyway, so the blood orange with the rosé, with the spice around the top, and then... throw in some frozen raspberries. So buy fresh raspberries and then put them in the freezer. So not frozen raspberries. You want that fresh,
And then they act as your ice cubes, basically. Yes. And then they're at the bottom of your glass when you're done.
So
and you can eat those.
That is one, and any fruit that soaks in alcohol is awesome.
All right, so another one.
Okay, so the next one is just the regular brut Prosecco. And so you, again, rim the glass, but this time rim it, you do the lemon, then you put the rim in brown sugar.
Brown sugar, okay.
Then you fill it with the regular Brut Prosecco, and then a splash of the prickly pear.
The prickly pear version of this.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
a little splash of prickly pear. And on this one, you can add a couple of frozen blueberries or basil. And so it just makes a very unique, different flavor profile. It's fun. It's festive. Drinking in the morning also says party to me.
Right? And by morning, we mean any time in the morning or afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. So,
But we're assuming you're having brunch, so whatever
Yes.
that is, 10, 11, 12?
exactly. So we're running a little late.
Okay.
So let's wrap this up. We'll tackle some of those other questions that we didn't get to a later date.
Okay.
Any last words about your phenomenal, beautiful wines?
No.
I love them. They're
Enjoy,
perfect.
you guys. I just here to make you guys happy.
Aww. Coming up on one of the next episodes, we're not exactly sure when, but we're hoping to Zoom with Chris and Lily from Mexico, hear all about their trip and what they're doing. And so definitely keep coming back. We're excited to see what they're up to.
Right? Cheers, you guys.
Cheers.